we started our journey right away, and we gave ourselves a year, and I felt that if it wasn't going to happen naturally, then I wanted to start seeing a fertility doctor. And it was, we were already living in sin, right? Because coming from an Italian background,
right? Yeah.
The shame of living together without being married, without being engaged. And I knew that I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life, but I wanted more to be a mom.
I am very excited and very grateful to have my next guest on, Nancy. And for those who've been listening from the beginning, or if you haven't, I mentioned Nancy in one of the very first episodes of this podcast because you, and I've shared this with you and you know this, but you have been so amazing for me in this journey as just a source of like support and calmness and knowledge and just hope. And, you know, I couldn't do this project, one, without mentioning you from the very beginning, and
sweet.
two, without having you here. And I know we've been coordinating dates and you've taken off to be here. And, you know, not only do you share a similar journey, everybody's journey is unique, but you are so open and vulnerable to help anyone. And just to get a little bit of background, Nancy and I grew up together.
Yep.
And we've known each other forever. But, you know, you leave high school and you kind of part ways and you're, you know, orbit each other's worlds. And I knew a little bit about what you were going through or had been through. And obviously I want you to share it here. And I kind of like out of nowhere reached out to you because I was just searching for somebody to like support me and help me. And you were like, you've always been there every step of the way for me. Anytime I have a question, like I can call you at any time. And I remember when I finally did get pregnant with Dean, you were one of the first people I called because I said, I have to tell her this.
And I knew it. I knew it. Like I hadn't heard from you. And then that phone rang. I'm like, there she is. She's pregnant.
I have chills. I have chills. So first and foremost, thank you for having my back.
Anytime. It brought
all
me
of this
joy.
And for being here. And I want you to share your journey because yours, again, everybody's unique. And
again, I said I wasn't going to cry, and I'm already like tearing up here.
I know.
It was a very interesting journey, and I had some people to fall back on, but my stories took such a turn that I don't feel that I had, you know, so many people. But so Albert and I had gotten together. It was maybe 33, 34.
Oh my gosh! So same. Rob and I at 34.
Yes.
So for you, oh my gosh! And now I'm like, I don't know. I know some of your story. I don't know. You know a lot of mine because it was like always me going to you. But I also met Rob at 34, and I know all of your group, most of your friends because we all grew up together. But like, what was that like for you to meet him at that age when maybe some of your friends, a lot of my friends, were already like married and having kids?
Oh my gosh. The repeated question was, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Right. So I met him. I had met him 20 years ago.
Shut up. Yeah. I don't think I knew that part.
Yeah, we met a long time ago, and he lived in Massachusetts and I lived here.
I remember that, yeah.
You know, we were in college and partying, and we were kind of getting tired going back and forth, but we always kept in touch. And then we kind of like rekindled, and then it was like fast forward. And one thing that, you know, just some of my close friends know is that once I got with Albert, it was like, let's get married. And he was like, yes, in due time. And it was kind of vague. And my dad was sick. And I don't know if you knew this. So it was like the added pressure of like, oh my gosh, I need to get married. I need to have kids. And my dad needs to not die so he can see everything.
Right.
And, you know,
that pressure is so huge. Like
it's so huge.
It weighs so heavily. And that's like everything we're trying to talk. And you even said like right before getting on, like everything works out. But when you're in that moment, like sometimes you don't feel like that. No, you just feel like failure. I need it. Yes. Total failure. Yes. What's wrong with me? Why can't I meet anybody? Like it's all this blame.
Yes. So we started our journey right away, and we gave ourselves a year. And I felt that if it wasn't going to happen naturally, then I wanted to start seeing a fertility doctor. And it was, we were already living in sin, right? Because coming from an Italian background,
right? Yeah,
the shame of living together without being married, without being engaged, and I knew that I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life, but I wanted more to be a mom. And my dad to be a grandpa. He already was, but for me,
For you, yeah.
And so I started the journey, and it was really hard. And I'm sure my family talked about me. And
Wait, I have a couple more questions before. I have so many questions, but one being, so Albert was on board for family right away, not necessarily marriage.
yes, not marriage. And he said we would get married, but he felt that moving here was just enough for now. And I said, well, I think that marriage is so much, easier than having a kid. And I pressed him so much. And I feel like it's that fine line, right? The pressing, the backing off, the pressing,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
backing
yes.
off,
Yeah.
and just being grateful that I was with somebody and live in the moment and hurry up before my dad dies and hurry up and have kids. And okay,
That
maybe
conflict,
the ring,
that constant, and sometimes it's daily. Like, okay, I'm going to be grateful today. I'm going to be in the present. I'm going to appreciate this relationship. And the next day it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? When are we doing it?
and there were plenty of arguments.
Oh,
there were
same.
plenty of arguments. And, from, Albert and I talk about this all the time from like a guy's point of view. He's like, I was just wondering if I can provide, yet alone, you wanting this marriage. I just wanted to make sure that I can land on my feet in New York, because coming from Massachusetts, New York is a monster.
Yeah, totally.
So he had to find a business and, make sure that this was something that he could cultivate and grow and make money. And
I think that can be hard to, not to sound insensitive. I'm just thinking of my own experience. Like, we have all these like voices and narratives and like anxiety around our own timeline that I don't know. I'm kind of like tunnel vision. Like, I wanted the kids, I want to be a mom, and I could lose sight of, sometimes what he's going through and where he's at. And
absolutely, we don't give them that much credit that we don't really give them credit. And, this is our back and forth all the time, because he's like, you provide, men provide, men provide.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, okay, that, I kind of trusted him and put that on the back burner and went with my gut. And I had a hard time with my blueprint, like you say, Tony Robbins calls it a blueprint because I followed him on my darkest days. And it was like, you're supposed to, right? I saw somebody else on your podcast saying like the checklist.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a checklist. It was the checklist, but on top of that, it was like your timeline and what people were saying about you.
Well, and the expectations placed on you, and like
expectations.
I think, my father's Italian as well. We grew up in the same community. I think there's certain expectations of how it looks and how it goes, and not just motherhood and children, but it's like, you're supposed to go to college and you're supposed to get this type of job and you're supposed to do this by this time. And it's like all these external, societal, family, cultural expectations on you. And then the internal pressure, because you're being informed by all of these things. Like, so if I'm not meeting those milestones, what's wrong with me?
Absolutely. Nightless, countless days, crying.
Yeah.
Because just show me the path, show me the path. What am I supposed to do? So, when we met with our fertility doctor, it was the percentages, if you remember that.
My God. Yes.
Nothing was over 50%, Beth. Nothing.
Well, I remember. So you, at what age do you end up at the fertility doctor? 37?
So we were there by 35.
35.
Yes.
Okay. So the first time I ended up in a fertility clinic was at 37 to freeze my eggs because, well, that's where Rob and I were at. And
yeah, you're right. It might have been actually older. Yeah, 37.
So
maybe.
I do remember that. And I remember leaving hysterical crying. And I've said this many times on this podcast and to other people. It's like, it was like I was at the stark drop.
Yeah.
And I was like, I left there hysterical because you feel like, well, there's no hope.
Yes. No hope.
Yeah.
And you keep acting like asking the doctor, so am I a normal case? So have you seen people like me before?
I always found myself like Googling, I don't know if you did this, but like I always, like if I saw someone pregnant or a celebrity, like how old are they? And not that that's the best gauge because they do very different. Some celebrities, they're not very honest about their pregnancy journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted to see like, who else is my age and in this boat, and who else is my age that had a baby? Or
it's so smart. It is. We all feel like we should have joined a club a long time ago.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So yeah, 37. I think he gave me like lower than 50%. And
well, and to share, I've seen your doctor, and he's very bedside manner, maybe not quite
zero bedside manner.
Yes.
But everybody reassured me that he was one of the best, and I kind of stuck with it. And now I included my parents on the journey, letting them know we were going to the fertility doctor.
Ooh, what did they say about it?
I think just the fact that I was one of the first ones, like they had no idea what exactly it was. And they kind of just patted me on the back and said, do what you have to do. Right. So knowing that we weren't married yet, knowing that we weren't even engaged, I think they just gave us our blessing because this is something that I've always wanted and that I was 37, 38. It took a couple of years. So I might have even started the process, but it took a couple of years to actually start for, the going with the eggs.
Yeah. And I think what you said, I want to back up to the other thing that you said about, you knew you wanted to be with him forever, but you knew you really wanted to be a mother. And I think sometimes maybe, well, Albert was on board for the kid stuff, but I think sometimes men don't understand that. And like, they don't understand this like desire to be a mom over the person. And I think that's where Rob and I struggled because I also, and still want to be with him forever.
Yep.
But I also really wanted to be a mom. And we were at these kind of crossroads sometimes of when he wasn't sure if he wanted. He's an amazing father and loves our son. I think it was his own stuff getting in his own way. But I think he struggled with like, well, I choose you. I was like, well, I choose you too, but I need to be a mom. I really want to be a mom.
Yeah. Did you feel like he was ever not in it with like marriage or?
He is 1,000,000,000% committed to me, to this relationship, to our son.
Yeah.
Like I have zero doubts about that. And I really come to understand and learn through a lot of hard conversations and arguments that like he has stuff within him. Like you were saying about Albert, like I want to make sure I can land on my feet. I want to find a business. Like he has things within himself that he wants to get to and accomplish. So I would love to be married. We're not, it's okay. Like, but I have no doubts about us, our relationship, our commitment to each other. Like he's amazing.
It is okay.
Yeah.
It is 100% okay. And the only reason why that we finally did take that step and have, that small wedding that we did, well, small, I feel like it was the more of the ceremony and just the, showing everybody that we did love each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the big Italian,
we've been to those.
Plenty. It wasn't anything like that. It was something that I needed to do. And I had my kids there. So you get to have your kids there if and when, right?
Yes.
And so that I felt like as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh my God, everybody should have their kids at their wedding.
I know. I think
it was
about
so
that
special.
now, like, oh my God.
It was so special and it was amazing. And it was like one of the best days. But yeah, going back, my dad was dying and I had to freeze those eggs. Actually, we never even froze because we received nine eggs and from those, 13. And from those 13, 5 only fertilized.
Wow. How is it for you? Like, obviously it's a very confronting emotional journey. Like I always find it hard. I'm like always holding my breath to get like the next news. Like what's the number that fertilizes? Like, how was that for you?
So what I tell everybody is like, you hold your breath about 80,000 times.
Yes.
Okay. You hold your breath in the office. You hold your breath when you're injecting yourself. You hold your breath the day of the egg release. You hold your breath to see how many eggs, then how many actually fertilized, then how many are developed embryos.
Yep.
Right. So at the end of the day, I think I had, I had 5. And he's like, okay, we're going to try putting in 2. We have an excellent and a very good egg.
This is all coming back to me now, the timeline of your daughter.
That's why I asked you.
Yep.
And so I was kind of like, great. And like I said, he was very stoic, right? So he was all excited. So I'm like, oh my God, this is it. We're having twins, babe. This is it. And he's like, there's a very good chance you're going to have twins. And I couldn't be happier. I was all excited. And it didn't work.
Neither of them.
Oh
my God.
And I remember being at work and getting that, just that day. And I was like, I can't believe I'm having twins. Not even thinking that it wouldn't work because he said excellent and very good.
Right.
And he called and he says, I'm so sorry. You're not pregnant. And it it was, yes, it was the fact that like, why? What, like all I kept saying was, why? You said very good and excellent. And he's like, Nance, anything could have gone wrong.
That's the thing too. Sometimes there's so many unanswered questions in this
And nobody
process.
can tell you.
And there's so like as much research or data, there's still so many unknowns. And
Absolutely.
like, the why didn't it work? And there's never really a good answer for that.
No. And that's why you need people, right? That have gone through this journey.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they are the ones that you rely on, because they're the ones that, have the exception to the rules or the miracles or the not miracles, but they have their stories that you can kind of like relate yourself to.
Totally. I mean, this is why I'm doing this, right? Like,
I'm sure you've
so helpful.
Absolutely. I would have loved to have this at the time, right?
Well, I know. I had you. So I didn't have this, but I had you.
And then the part 2 of that was, Albert picking me up because I had like a nervous breakdown. And then I had to tell my dad, right? And that was, in May, and I knew that he took a turn, his health took a turn. And I remember saying like, so now my dad's dying, I have to tell him that I'm not pregnant. Like, how the hell do I do that?
I just felt like my stomach just dropped.
So,
it's just like, it's never just one thing. There's always like layer and layer and layer.
So many layers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I remember going back in there, and Dr. Keltz was like, hey, so you have one left. We can do this. And I said, Dr. Keltz, you said this is the okay egg.
See, I think that's like, again, you're constantly helping me. And I haven't talked about my recent experience on here, but that's so helpful to know that, it's like, and that's like, just to know that like, it works out. It can work out.
It always does.
Yeah.
It always does. So yeah. So the okay egg, meanwhile, was my 9-pound daughter. And so, the best part of that story is that, so my dad's in hospice and he's dying, and the next day was my transfer.
Oh my God.
Literally my dad's dying, and I'm like, I can't transfer this last embryo. Because what if it doesn't work? What if my body's still going to reject it because I'm so sad?
You're grieving, yeah.
And I was like, somebody just tell me what to do. Now, there's nobody that's ever gone through this. There's no science that's going to help me. I couldn't tell a lot of people because I didn't want to go through that whole thing of like not telling, telling everybody that it didn't work. So now here I am, like, what do I do? And so I'm at the hospital, and I just remember crying and saying, Dad, like, whispering, like, just tell me what to do. And he did. He took his last breath. And I looked at him and I said, okay.
Oh my God.
I said, I know him. Like, I kid you not. It was a true story. So I said, somebody go get my mom. My dad just passed. And, I knew it. I knew it.
Oh my God.
I knew it. And Albert and I walked in there, and I was so relaxed, and
something even bigger.
10 days later, I was pregnant. Yep. And it was like the best thing. And
oh my God, your dad gave you this gift.
Oh my gosh. And you gave me a mug before with the red cardinal, and that's my dad. I have
oh
red
my God.
cardinals.
You know why we have that? That's Rob's grandfather. Yes. Oh no, grandmother. I'm sorry.
It's so funny because
that's
like
so
my
wild.
Dad. Yeah. So you gave that to me, and
oh my
I go,
God. So he's here with us. He's here with us.
It's meant to be. He definitely.
That's so wild.
It was a story, and that's why I said everybody has a story, but like mine just kept layering up. So now I have this pressure of the last embryo, my dad literally dying, and what do I do? And I kept saying to my doctor, like, what do I do if this doesn't work? And he's like, you know what? Let's just take that step when we get to it.
Yeah. And what's been so incredible about you is that maybe you didn't, you offer something to people and to women and have to me that like just, it's going to be okay. Like you give that, and maybe you didn't have that. Maybe your journey while you're going through it was different.
Yeah.
But you got to that point, and that's what you offer people now. It's just like, okay, take a beat, take a breath. Like it's going to be okay.
The only thing that stops women is fear.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you reach down to the bottom of failing, and you fail and you fail and you did not get the result, that next decision is the best decision.
Yeah.
If you look back on everything that you failed and it was like the bottom, and it could be anything, work, relationships, this journey, and you feel like, now what am I going to do? There's nowhere to go. And all of a sudden that next decision, it was the perfect decision.
Yeah.
It
There's
led
always somewhere to go.
There's always somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And it leads you to a better path. I don't know how, but it really does.
It does. And I think trying to stay connected to that when you're in the midst of it is so important. I mean, it's not easy, but it can be so helpful to just trust, like, there's meaning to this. It'll make sense at some point. It's heartbreaking right now, but like kind of keep moving forward.
Yeah, you'll never get it when you're there.
No,
nobody ever does.
No,
and it doesn't matter with who you support, who you're supported by. It doesn't matter like that, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't matter. You are down, you stay down.
Yeah.
And you cry it out, and you just, you almost just like take it in.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. You have to process it. You have to sit with it and honor that, and then, step by step, you move forward.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So there's a whole other part of your story that I want to share, but in the middle of this part 2, baby 2 was when I called you, and we were talking about it before, and I know my end of the phone call. I'm curious for you to share.
So when you called me, I wanted to come over and just kind of like hug you. Aww. Because that I remember being in that place of fear, and that like that ambiguous like pool of like, what am I going to do? And what is this? Right. So you called me, and I felt that fear on the other end, and I just was like, you are going to do it. Don't worry. You were. And I just kept saying, it's going to happen.
You did. You were like my biggest cheerleader. You were such a huge support, and like, just like this reassurance that you're like, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. And it did. And it did.
And you are one of like maybe 8 people, and all 8 people got pregnant.
Well, the value of having someone in your corner like that is like tremendous. Like there is just this sense of like, you're not carrying all this weight by yourself. Like you have someone that relates to it. And I have an identical twin sister that has, she's has 2 kids. They're older. Like her mother journey started sooner, and we're as close as can be. But and she'll support me, and she'll have my back, and she'll do anything I need to do. But it's a very different conversation than what I can have with you or some other woman that's been through egg freezing or, and beyond. So
and
it's
relationship. We were in the same boat.
Same boat. Yeah.
And the thing is with relationships, I felt also that you were like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know either.
Yeah.
And all we can do is trust.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can't live on this limbo line of, well, all men can, and maybe will do this and maybe do that. And you can't live like that. You make that decision, you trust that person, and you go for the ride.
Yeah.
And that's all you could do. And I remember telling you that.
Yeah.
Do you love him? Yes. Does he love you? Yes. Then marriage doesn't matter. Just keep it moving.
Yeah. And
keep it moving.
It doesn't. For me, when I think about marriage, is that I love him so much. I respect him so much. I love his family so much. I respect his family so much that like, it would just be an honor for me to have that last name. And it's like a running joke in the family now. We were at a christening not too long ago, and they're like, Feist family. And I'm sitting there, and his brother is looking at me. I was like, I'm not a Feist. He's like, shut the fuck up. You're a Feist. He's like, get over here. We're just joking around. But yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, again, I was saying it's like not anything to do with the strength of our relationship.
Absolutely not. Well, Beth, here's the best part. I kept saying, I can't have kids and have a different last name. Like, we need to get married so that I can have the same last name. I never changed my name.
Oh my God. That's what I was wondering. Cause Shelly was like, give me her stats. I was like, well, Caparelli, but I don't know if she goes by. No,
I did not. So this whole thing that I dreamt of, like everybody having the last name, I never took it.
Well, that's the thing, right? There's this vision that's like implanted in us, and then the vision starts to look different, and then there is this conflict or these bad narratives because we're like, well, it's supposed to look this way.
Absolutely.
And then it never does, and you're like, well, shit, this vision's my like current reality is pretty good.
It always is. And the fact that like it doesn't match our blueprint, what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit there and dwell on it, or are you just going to kind of just take it and go? I remember my uncle saying, after my dad died and I still wasn't married and I just had my first child, he's like, I had a dream that your dad came to me and said, I wish my daughter was married. And I'm like, really? This is the dream that you have? And I remember not letting it affect me. And I was mad at that moment. I was like pissed off. Like, why would he say that? And then I was like, you know what? Yeah, because that's all they know.
Yes, that's all they know.
And
right.
you can't blame them for that
exactly.
that sense of thought.
Yeah,
like, it is what it is.
We talked about that, particularly our fathers with another guest of like, that's what they know. And that's the blueprint. That's the way. And like, we kind of veered off of those things. So it's like, and we've talked a lot about, I like what you bring up too. Like, what are you going to, like, we have choice, right? So you have a choice. You can either sort of embrace what's happening now and like move through that and make the best of that and find other ways to like recreate the vision, or you can sit in the shit and like feel really horrible about it.
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go when you're sitting in the shit.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And like I said, that one step forward, that one just getting out of bed, that one time you're like, I got this.
Yeah.
And you have no other choice. And that's what people don't realize. Like, life does not stop.
Life goes on. Yeah.
It does not stop. So the fact that like next thing you know, you're like, oh, okay, I have one more egg, and oh, okay, I the okay might work out, and I might get pregnant. And if I don't, I get to do this thing all over again and free, and get some more eggs because I've done it the first time. And if that doesn't work out, then I'll figure it out.
Well, yeah,
again.
Like each step of the way, it's like
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like sort of just pivoting and taking in what's happening and redirecting, and
it always is. And I always say to everybody, your first decision after you failed is the best decision. It just works out that way.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like you said, like you don't realize it in the moment, but when you look back,
nobody does.
Okay, so I want you to share journey to baby number 2.
Journey number 2. Okay, so it was a very interesting start because we were so afraid.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Still not married. And here we are, being pregnant in a school without a ring on.
Yes, because you're
something that, I kind of thought like, oh my God, everyone's going to say like, oh my God, Miss Caparelli is pregnant and she's not married. And it was really hard for me.
Yeah.
And I had so much bigger fish to fry that I was kind of like,
whatever,
who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who cares? If anything, I'm teaching people to like, it doesn't matter what your age is. You just go for what you want. Yeah. And that's what I did.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started the
41.
41.
I was a geriatric patient.
So was I. Yes.
Did you love that name?
Oh my God.
Get a cane, walk in. So again, people, root me on. My husband at the time was like, did not think we should go for it, thinking that we were messing with science, messing with nature. We had a perfect kid. Why would you want to do this again?
Yeah.
Why would you want to risk it? Why at this age? And I didn't think of anything. I was, because fear is what gets me. I listen to this podcast all the time, and people are always saying the stigma. The stigma doesn't get me, Beth. It's the fear.
Yeah.
The stigma, you get past the stigma in about a minute.
Yeah.
You get past the whispering and the conversations. It's the fear that stops us from doing everything in life.
Oh my God. I see it in myself. Sometimes I see it in my clients. I see, I mean, it's,
and listen, I'm like the number one person who's scared, but once I'm in it, then it's like, let's just go. And
it's always better to be in it. Like what we manifest in our minds of what it would to be is always what's scarier. I always like make this comparison to the roller coaster. Like you're standing in line for the roller coaster, unless you're someone that loves roller coasters, which people do, but like you're afraid, you're fearful. You're like, oh my God. And then you get on it and you're like, it's fucking amazing. This is so fun. Let me do it again.
Let me do it again.
So once you're in it, I think that's when the fear dissipates because we realize it's not as scary as we made it, or we're capable to hold the fear. And
we are capable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I mean, like I said, you hold your breath about 80 times during IVF.
Yeah.
So we visited our same doctor, and obviously the percentage goes even more down.
I know.
And so we start the fertilization process, the eggs, and now like I don't have that much money for the process.
Well, that's another thing, right? It's a huge expense. We talked about that a lot on here. Like,
Yeah. I was lucky that, my insurance carried some money for the first time around, but the second time around, it's kind of like, well, you're shit out of luck now. Like rubbing two pennies together and, you just figure it out. And we did. And so I remember being on vacation in Long Island and I had to come back and so I can check how I was, moving along. And everyone's like, you really have to go back? And I'm like, I'm dedicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is. I'll drive 3 hours. I'll drive 7. I don't care. So I did, and I was moving along, and I think he quoted me as 4 eggs.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute, I had 13 and now I have 4. And you get a shrug, right? Because you're like, ah. And again, they don't know. They yes, your age plays a role, but at the same time, they don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the kicker was that I said, okay, all you need is 1, right? That's all we kept saying in the IVF world. All you need is 1 good egg. And so they put me to sleep. I'm in the recovery, and my doctor comes in and says, you have 0 eggs. And I said, wait, you said I had 4. And well, they're empty.
Oh,
and I'm like, what does that mean? We never even talked about this. And I said, does that mean I have no eggs? And he said, no, not necessarily. So I go home and I'm Googling and I'm looking.
Oh, the Googling. Oh, so much
Googling. Don't you love
no.
Google? Well, thank God we didn't have something. Anyway, so I'm going home and I'm Googling, and it doesn't mean that you're completely, dried out of eggs. It just means that you didn't wake as many up maybe.
Right.
But your age does have a part. So nobody can tell you the answer. Nobody
That's
can
what's
tell
so
you.
frustrating. There's so many unanswered questions.
Absolutely. And my doctor says, Nance, you have an option. And I said, what's that? And he said, you can choose a donor egg. And I said, Doc, I'm Italian. We don't do those things. I'm not going to do that. I want to have my own baby. And he said, fair enough. I said, could I try it again? Would I have a different result? He says, nobody knows. I said, okay, I need to try it again. He said, you sure? I said, absolutely. We did it all over again. The shots, the gaining of the weight, the bloating, I've had temper tantrum, mood swings, and trying to raise, my 2-year-old.
Now that you have a toddler at this point. Yeah.
And paying for all this medication out of pocket.
Oh gosh.
4 eggs on screen in the recovery room, comes out empty. Again.
The amazing thing is just, again, our capability and our willingness to keep going and keep trying.
Yes.
Right? Because it's just like this dedication to build your family and have your children.
Beth, the minute he said empty eggs, I said, great. So remember the donor eggs? Let's go. Tell me about it.
Oh my God.
And I didn't even give it a thought. And at that moment, I was like, what was I thinking? That it was bad or it was something that I wasn't interested in. Like, I told you I'm dedicated. Tell me what I have to do.
But do you think it was like all, the programming or the messaging or the internalizing of like the right way to do it? Like, I'm Italian, we don't do these things. Or like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also, I've never met anybody who had done this. So that's why I'm so happy to be on this and getting to tell my journey of a donor egg, because we
haven't had anyone share.
It's rather new. People are still like now going through the whole IVF and freezing the eggs, and people are getting really smart now, and by 30 freezing the eggs, and now it's a thing.
Yeah, what I think is so amazing, and you met Drew right before you came on, and Drew was on before you, is that the journey to motherhood, parenthood, family building it's not prescriptive that it looks one way. And there are so many ways. And I think hearing more of these stories is normalizing these different ways, and that it can be just as amazing and wonderful as
Amen
what
to
we're,
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen to that. I couldn't be happier of going through that journey. And I thought it was incredible. So the minute he says empty, I didn't even dwell. Not one tear came out of my eyes.
Wow.
I looked to him and I said, what's next?
Wow.
And he said, well, we deal with several banks, you call it, and you go online and you scroll, and all these women are a certain age, and you get to pick. You see their picture, you see their baby picture, you see their picture as they're getting older, so to have an idea. And then this is what's wild. You have their college transcripts. You have,
oh my God, you get the whole
their high school grades. You have their parents' occupation, their grandparents' occupation, history, family history, family health history.
Wow.
Down to both maternal and paternal grandparents.
Wow, you get
and
the whole.
It is wild. And the cool part was, I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And by the time I picked, because it's like kind of like a big deal.
A huge deal and decision.
I couldn't believe it. And it was like a big thing. I'm like, okay, here I am calling. Here we go. Oh, she's under contract. I'm like, what does that mean?
Somebody else?
Somebody like snagged her. And I thought like, what? And it was like every step of the way, there was always something.
Yeah. It was funny. One of my girlfriends, old girlfriend of mine, she did donor sperm, and we're all college girls are on the call, and she's like, it was sold out. I was like, what do you mean sold out? I didn't understand what that meant, but the sperm was sold out.
It's crazy. No one tells you this.
No one tells you this.
You just have to go through it.
Yeah.
You just have to go through it. And we found it comical after a while. But you're prepping your body. So you have to kind of like take your time and hurry up, because your body was prepped already for certain things. And so if you miss the boat on a time that you were ovulating or after you're ovulating, I forgot how it goes, but you only had like 2 weeks for the process or something like that.
So you had to turn around.
So we had to turn around and do it fast. And again, I think it was 6 eggs that I paid for and 1 fertilized. 1.
I remember this part of this. Yeah.
1. And it was...
Well, and that one is?
That one is my son.
Oh.
We didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. And they were like, well, do you care? Do you want to... I'm like, I do not care. Let this baby, and I thought I was just having a girl because, there's so much science behind IVF girl eggs that make it. The embryos that are female make it further than the males. I don't know why. So I just thought it was another girl, and it was a boy. And my whole family is dark hair, dark eyes, except for my husband's side, has some light in them. And the donor egg was dark hair, dark eyes, and this little boy, Giuseppe, blonde hair and blue eyes, and white as snow. And they're handing me this child, and I'm like, wait, this is not. No, that's your.
But
your
my
baby.
son is also blonde, blue eyes.
Oh
and
my
like everyone's
gosh.
like, and Rob and I are both dark and dark hair, dark eyes. One thing you've said to me about your son, which is you're like through and through, this is my kid.
You forget.
Yeah.
You forget. And it is the closest thing to adoption. And I would never even, adoption wouldn't go like past me in a second. Like it's your child.
Yeah.
You make that commitment. That is your baby. Doesn't matter what's in their bloodstream or their genes. It's your baby.
Yours.
You never, ever, ever give it a second thought. Ever.
Yeah. I think your journey is so inspiring in so many ways, because I think you sort of, and what is so amazing about you, so many things, is that you're paying it forward in so many ways. And in a lot of ways you didn't have other people that related to your story. So you kind of went through this, like not knowing these things, or not knowing somebody that maybe had frozen their eggs or, did IVF or donor egg. And so, it's incredible to have done that and to kind of break down stigmas, right? Like not married at certain times, and like, but you've always been somebody that's like your energy is amazing. You've always done your own thing, and you've always just like forged your own.
I've done my own thing, Beth. And as much as maybe I looked the part, I was scared to death. I was scared. And after a while, you're like, I don't give a shit what anybody is saying.
You go through so much, and you just,
when you have some friends after you're telling them your decision about a donor egg, and you have some friends like do the side eye, like, that's what you want to do.
Oh, I've lost friends.
And you're kind of like, wait, what? Like, why are you reacting like that? Like, this is hard for me. I need support. And, for the most part, they were great and cheerleaders, but
yeah, you'll have one or two. And we've talked a lot about sort of the impact on friendship in this in these episodes, whether it's something like that. And I've had my own experience with friendships, losing friendships, friends, like, hearing that I was pregnant and they weren't yet, and that being a little bit of a rupture. And, I think that's an important topic to talk about, because it's hard. And even just, people go down different paths, or someone's married and someone's not. And all of a sudden, like, I remember being at dinners with like 3 of my closest friends, my sister being one of them, and they're all married with kids. And I'm like, I don't relate at all.
Right.
Like, I'm still in the city partying and single, and like, I love you, but I don't relate to you at all. Yeah. It's hard.
If you have to play the part, the minute you seem like you don't know what you're doing, everybody will pick up on it. Everybody will pick up on it. So as much as I was insecure, scared, had so many questions because I knew nothing about donor eggs.
Yeah.
I presented it on a silver platter as the coolest, most like amazing idea. And so one person that didn't think it was cool, I was kind of like, wait, what do you mean? And, you know, right away, it's like, you know, you load them with facts and you load them with kind of like education because they know nothing about it.
Know nothing. And they're making like a judgment based
Exactly,
on like
exactly.
all the things
So I
we're
had to
told.
like back up and say, okay, you know what? Not everybody knows what this is and not
Yeah.
everybody is going to agree with it.
Right. And they don't have to.
I stood my ground.
Yeah.
I stood my ground. Oh, my mom, telling my mom, oh, that was like, oof. She just looked at me and she really didn't get it. And she kind of said, you know what, just do your thing. You don't have to tell me anything. And that was her way of saying, I support you, but I really don't want to know the details.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want to judge.
Well, you know what's interesting is that I had never told my parents, my mother, that I froze my eggs. And then I'm doing this podcast. And you know my mom, she's like all in on anything that Jill and I are doing. And so she's now on Instagram. And I was like, well, she's going to see this stuff. So I'll have to tell her. And she was fine about it, but I didn't share that.
I know, but why?
I don't know. I think it's I think there's part of this where it's isolating in itself. And then you kind of, or I did, like you just go in within yourself because so much is happening that, but I've learned along the way, like obviously talking about it helps so much more. But I think there was a period of like, I'm the one going through this and no one understands.
Yes.
And I'm in this alone.
Yes.
And like, so you just sort of, or I did like close off to kind of a lot of things and people. But I'm certainly learning that talking about it is way more helpful.
It's talking about it and it's not being ashamed. And like, I have to be honest, I don't walk around telling everybody. I don't walk around saying, you know, because the first thing they say is like, oh my God, he's blonde hair and blue eyes. And as much as my donor looks like me, I wasn't going to like, you know, sometimes I say it and sometimes I don't. And sometimes people are like, wait, what? And, you know, you choose who to share that energy with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am not ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed about. This is the best, you know, this is the best way that I describe this, paying it forward. I was 8 months pregnant and one of my good friends at work lost her son. Lost her, I think he was like 7 or 8 at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And she sees me pregnant and she looks at me and she was close to 50 and with tears in her eyes said, I'm not done being a mom. I said, so then don't be. And she says, what do you mean? Like, how can I be a mom? I said, you can be a mom. Trust me. And she's like, what, you know? And I said, I have a donor egg. I said, I couldn't have any more eggs and I had a donor egg. She's like, really? Tell me more. And we talked. And the next day she made appointments and now she has a 2-year-old.
Oh my God. That is like the best story.
Yeah.
You certainly pay it forward. 100%.
And it was the best one so far. I have a couple other friends with stories about this, but and the best part is like they didn't ask me. I was calling people because I was just so excited to share the IVF journey and to kind of say, hey, like wake up.
Yeah.
Like there's
other ways.
Like there's other ways, guys.
Yeah.
Like we can do this. And I remember calling people that are in their 30s, like freeze your eggs, go do something. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Like what's going on? I don't even have a boyfriend. I'm like, I don't care. Go do it.
Oh my God. I'm telling everybody like, you know, I think it's just, you just don't know where your journey is going to end up. And sometimes you can turn around and, you know, I was 37 and not yet a mom. And I'm like, fuck, you know? So I think knowledge is power and whatever you do with that knowledge is fine. But just knowing, you could decide it's not for you, but like the information needs to be out there. The conversations need to be out there. Like normalizing different ways of being a mom need to be out there just so you're informed enough to make your own decision, you know, and you've done a lot of research since starting this podcast, and a lot of the average age that women find themselves at a fertility clinic is like 36.6. And at that point, not that it's hopeless, but like, you know, getting there a little bit earlier could be
right. Because it
helpful.
starts to decline after 35, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the percentages go down, but it's normalizing it. I think you hit the nail on the head with that because I don't think donor eggs are anywhere near normalized at all. And I don't even think people know that's an option. I really don't. It
continues to surprise me how, not surprise me, I guess, maybe upset me how little we know. And I just went through another journey that I'll share at some point, but like I knew very little as somebody that like works in the space, does this podcast. Like it's like, yes, there is a lack of information.
there's a lack of information. I have another friend who got a divorce and used a donor egg and donor sperm. And
so there's so many.
has a baby. So I think that it's dedication and it's just moving forward.
Yeah, I had a really great doctor on season 1, and she said, if you want to be a mother, you will be.
That's it.
And that's like, that is it. Because when you want that, and as women that are very strong and very capable and can persevere, like you'll find a way. And I think it's about, which is awesome about having you here and offering another way to do that. And Drew talking about adoption, it's like just opening up your vision to consider other ways and not getting so stuck of how it's supposed to look or how
Going
you want
against your blueprint.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
You just have to figure it out and just, okay, so now what?
Yeah.
And so like that moment that I looked at my doctor and said like, okay, so what is this again? Can you tell me? Like the amount of like stress that I felt kind of just melted because I'm like, okay, well, this is it. This is my answer. I didn't care what, I didn't care when, I didn't care how. I would figure it out, and it was pricey, and there's no insurance that are going to charge.
Well, I know you. That's the other piece.
It runs about anywhere from 30 to 40,000
for the eggs.
For the eggs, yeah. Every company is different. You can get 6 eggs to 8 eggs. I mean, every company is different, but that's around the average.
That's the other piece. Obviously, this is also like a huge piece of conversation is the financial piece. And I know a lot of companies are offering more benefits, and hopefully that's something that continues to change as there's more conversation and there's more normalization. But it's like, the path or the journey that we're told, like save for the house, save for this, save for that. And no one's like, I'll start to put some money aside just in case for these things. But hopefully, as we have more conversations and people are talking about this more, like insurance companies are kind of
absolutely
waking up.
I mean, it's also on the flip side, women are also going after career now, right? They're not going for the family right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is like, we are in that generation of like, I have to have a career and I have to support my family and I need to, do what I was meant to do. And I feel like we kind of switched that in the last like 20, 30 years. And now women are, getting pregnant in 40s.
Yeah.
And because they were so career
Well, the
driven.
the fortunate part is that there are these options. The unfortunate part is our biology is never going to catch up with the times, right? So while we're like, people are delaying motherhood, women are like excelling in career and education. Right. It's not like our body's like, oh, cool. Like then we'll just like match up in the line with that. I always said that it's like our bodies is not, aligned with the times.
And men don't have that pressure, right?
No.
They get it, but they don't get it.
Yeah, I think another gap we can start to fill is like, hopefully, Drew's been here since day one and he's learning a lot.
Yes.
And hopefully we're going to get some more men on here and men listening is that, we're not as informed about our own fertility. So men are probably really in the dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
The supportive partner piece is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, just the injections alone, I remember. I'm like, can you help me? I have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
what I'm
Rob
doing.
did all of mine.
Yeah. I mean, I learned after.
Yeah.
I did so many.
Yeah.
But I mean, just that alone, the appointments, the crying, the hopefulness. I mean, he was always just even keeled.
It's huge.
It's huge.
And even if you don't have a partner, I always say this is like, before you go into this journey, whether it's egg freezing or IVF or like, get that in place, whether that's like, who are the friends that you feel really safe with and can like have your back or like pick you up or be there to do the shots, or if it's the therapist or like your family, like have those people in place because it is and like, that's why I called you. Like, it's a tremendous help to have those people in place.
Absolutely. I think also the number one thing to remember is the people that know who you are and really know who you are. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whether they're judging you or not, they are so supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. They might not get it.
But they know you.
Yeah.
They know you. They know what you're about. And I always say that. I'm like, people know how much I want to have a family. People know my journey, that what I went through with my dad and how I just wanted to make him so proud and say, hey, look, Dad, I did it. I had a baby, And although physically he wasn't here, he kind of, he knew, right? I know it's so crazy.
He's here.
But I always if there's something that I can tell people that like the stigma is the stigma. The judging is the judging. That's never going to go away.
Yeah.
But your close core, the people that really know you, don't even give it a second thought.
No, they just want,
Never.
They just want to, like you've done for me and what you've done for other women. They just
Absolutely
want to see you have what you want and have your back on that.
It will happen. It always does.
That's a good reminder. Well, I cannot say enough about what you've meant to me in my journey and my continued journey, and to have you here today is
awesome.
Like so meaningful. So thank you.
If we can shout it out to the world in any other way, let me know.
Yes, girl, we'll have you back. We'll
happy
keep talking about
Absolutely.
it.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
You got this.
Thank you.
You know you do.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Quiet the Clock with Nancy, my old childhood friend who has had my back through my entire journey. It's a reminder of how important to have supportive people in your corner as you go through this. If you've enjoyed this episode, please continue to join us for future episodes of Quiet the Clock to hear more amazing, incredible, supportive, inspiring stories. If you like the episodes that you're hearing and you want to hear more, please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more incredible stories and tools.
When I froze my eggs at 37, I felt alone, I felt unsure, I felt confused and uncertain. And when you're considering such a big decision, feeling those ways do not feel good. So we have created a step-by-step guide to egg freezing so no one else has to feel that way. If you are considering egg freezing, if you're curious about what the process looks like or what you should be thinking about, then this guide is for you. We were really thoughtful in how we put it together. I think it's a great guide. I think it's really comprehensive and covers a lot of the things to be thinking about, to be considering, and maybe some things you didn't even realize you should be thinking about or considering. The goal is to not have anyone feel alone in this journey. So if you're thinking about this decision, sign up through our website, quiettheclock.com, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at quiettheclockpod. This is a very big decision, so I don't want anyone to feel alone in it. So if you're thinking about it, grab this guide, and you can also DM me with any questions. I'm here to support you through this decision and this journey.